I hope everybody has had a great bye week. I hope everybody found a good way to enjoy themselves. But now we're back to our regularly scheduled football season. I'm not going to lie, stressful as a year as this has been for the Cleveland Browns, it was real good and felt real good to just have a weekend where I didn't have to worry about what the Browns are going to do. And in that weekend, some good things happened for the Cleveland Browns, quite frankly, in that run. A lot of the AFC teams in the wild card hunt lost, so a lot of teams are sitting at 6 wins, as well as the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns did not fall too far out of the wild card spot. Now, keep in mind that 1 game back, technically, for the Cleveland Browns, it's really 1.5 game back. So in order for the Cleveland Browns to really feel good about securing a playoff spot, they have to be 1 win better than pretty much the entire wild card pack, because they're not winning any tiebreakers with their AFC record. The only tiebreaker they can win is overall record, and you don't want to get into that battle. So the wild card positioning is much better. The division is a little bit better, right? The Baltimore lost, and so did Cincinnati, so they stay at 7 wins. The Browns can get to 7 wins with a win over Baltimore. Obviously, that would bring them up, I think, into a tie for second place, depending on everything else that happens. And then, you would have the Bengals game. If you went out and the Bengals went out, that would be for the division. Now, that's thinking a long ways down the road. But again, during the bye week, good stuff happened for the Cleveland Browns. And while we would feel even better if they would have been able to capitalize on 4 turnovers and win that game on Sunday Night Football, there's still reason to feel good about this team going forward. So going into the bye week, they had some press conferences. I'm going to talk about what we learned, what we didn't learn. But before I do that, I want to make sure we talk about our patreon.com dog check tier members. And I'm going to start with Michael Matique, Cam Vex, Jaleel Salim Jr. and Sr., Caleb Pickering, Benjamin Woods, Michael Terry, Sam28, Wani Boy, Rob Morehouse, Tyler Chiz, Michael Morales, Mark Kahn, Max Haymaker, Nick Merrick, D.A.J., Joe Hart, Gabriel Wilson, Fred Pat III, David Valtiar, Relentless Buck, Rex Kaufman, Kevin Johnson, Cleveland Cart, Matt H., Sign Sheets, Gemini, Leon Freeman, Fight 3074, Chunt, Yo-Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hondo Magnifico, Cal Stoffer, Lukey from Munich, Dave Roth, J-Guy101, Musty Taco, Brad Cowbo, Dylan W., James McGinley, Arendal, Chad Gimme, David Maldonado, Josh Spindor, Austin Rich, Mark M., Stuart Moore, Dylan Hill, Cleveland BCI, Robert Germain, Dave Mike May, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Bayer, Batman, Barack Kumar, John Albert, Beerman069, Masayua, Butts Roland, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Sean Barron, Goggles Pisano, Dom Gazzulo, Nick Nasty, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Christian, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Billy, Moose Gentry, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, Dog Pound Kai, Greg Ehlers, Austin Bolin, Lydia Mahawk, Alexander Davis, Chris Falms, Picktown Browns backer, Max Nilakenko, Max Al Dojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Okay, so the big news, I think, over the weekend, there wasn't a ton of big news, which is great on the bye week, but the big news over the week is Andrew Berry spoke to the media, and he spoke about Baker Mayfield's future. Now, I don't know what this means for Baker Mayfield's long-term future, quite frankly, with this team. Like, I don't know if they're going to give any answers in this. But when it comes to his short-term future, right, there's been a lot of pressure by some people, people who I disagree with, by the way, to put Case Keenum in there because, there's like this ideal that Baker is hurt. But from all accounts that coming from the team, they feel like Baker's healthier than he's been all season, that he's on his way to being close to 100%. They expect him to surge, and every game they've cleared Baker to come out here, they have explicitly stated that they have to pass 3 criteria, right? This goes to all of the things that we have mentioned and why I felt like, yes, Baker's hurt, but I don't think he's hurt enough that he can't perform his duties to the level that we expect him to, and why he shouldn't get an excuse for this year. And they test him to make sure that he can perform his duties, that he can perform up to what he needs to do before they clear him. That's all in the thing. And honestly, at this point, if the Browns did not think Baker Mayfield was healthy enough to play, you would have to believe that the team would be sabotaging him. And I think that's just quite frankly ridiculous to believe at this point. The lengths that they've gone through to protect Baker Mayfield throughout the last 2 years, it would be ridiculous to think that now they're sabotaging him because the level of play hasn't been great. There was that Kurt Warner video that dropped. I put a video on my critiques of that video and what I liked and did not like about that video on Friday. The response to that has been interesting. But overall, that's the Browns quarterback situation. It's Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's going to play. Nobody else is coming in. No, Case Keenum is not coming in. And no, it does not seem like the coaching staff thinks that Case Keenum is an option. And I think for very good reason, because Case Keenum not better than what you're going to get from Baker Mayfield at this point. I think that's pretty objective based on the body of work. But, there are Case Keenum fans in there that will disagree with me. That's just where I'm at with the whole Case Keenum thing here. So that's one of the big updates over the bye week. Injury-wise, you're kind of at where you were after the Baltimore game. You're kind of in that same place here. Having Hunt back and having him practice a little bit more, maybe that'd be something that'd be more helpful. But you're kind of in the same place health-wise. And the long and short of the Browns season is they have 5 games left. They have a game against the Ravens, a game against the Raiders, a game against the Packers, a game against the Steelers, and a game against the Bengals. So 3 of those games are division games. 4 of those games are AFC games, and only one is a NFC game. And I think that's the only game that you can afford to drop if you really want to make the playoffs here, because I think 10-7, you might be 1 game better than the 7 seed, so you might sneak in there. But really, you won't feel good unless you're like 11-6 again, because the Browns have horrible tiebreakers here. So you're pretty much asking this team not just to rally, but to win out for the rest of the year. And if you do win out, you might have a chance at the division. You'll definitely have a chance at the wild card. But that's probably what it's going to require is you winning out or hoping that somebody else really collapses in this playoff race or in this wild card race, because that's really what it's up to for the Cleveland Browns, And again, luckily, since things fell in your direction last week, that loss to Baltimore does not hurt you as much as it should have. But going into this week, you still need to beat Baltimore. You still need to beat Oakland, not Oakland, LA. Not LA, Las Vegas. It's so hard to keep track of where that team is. Green Bay. You kind of need to beat Green Bay. They're less of important. You can take that loss, but, you would like to get it. Pittsburgh, you definitely need to beat the Bengals at this point. You need to beat. So that's kind of what's on the Browns' plate ahead for the rest of this year. Now, that's what's possible. I think it's time now to have a conversation about what we should expect, because I think there are vastly different realms of what people should expect based on what they think the offense is going to be able to do, because I think the defense is good enough that we know that they're not going to be the main reason that we lose. But this offense, it's been the reason why the Browns have lost like 3 or 4 games this year, their inability to score and keep points. So that's really the concern. And the biggest player, or the player that can change this the most individually by just flat playing better, is Baker Mayfield. So how is he going to get out here and play better? And I know when it comes to Baker, there seems to be a group of people who either want this man to fail at all costs, or also think that nothing that he's done this year is wrong and that only the injury is to blame for the bad play. And, I think both sides of that argument are kind of BS, because Baker has not been good this year. He has not been a good quarterback this year. We can make excuses for him. We can make all of these, reasons for why he's not playing well. But the flat bottom truth is he's been out there for every game, and he's given us 2 good games so far in the season, and he's not been good for the rest of those games. So, I'm not saying he's the reason the Browns lose all these games or lost 6 games. I'm not putting all the blame on him, but he definitely is responsible for a good amount of it. And, if he plays better, this team wins more games. That's how quarterback works. So he does need to play much better than he has. And that's what the team is expecting, right? When they talk about Baker, when they talk about we expect him to surge late in the season, this is what they're hoping for, right? The defense is where it needs to be. And if Baker surges and plays much better at the end of the year, all of a sudden you're looking at a team that's pretty dangerous, right? If the offense just magically, and this would be magically at this point, just get back to 2020 form with a defense that plays as well as it has the last few weeks, that's a team that can make a sneaky run in the playoffs, right? But that all depends on the offense, and a lot of that depends on Baker Mayfield. A good amount of that depends on this offensive line, and another portion of this depends on his wide receiver help and the coaching help. But it's going to rest on the shoulders of Baker Mayfield. And I know some people might not think that's fair or that's not right, or, we're putting too much on Baker at this point. But the fact of the matter is that the Browns are trying to figure out whether Baker Mayfield is worth $40 million or not, right? That's the going rate to keep your quarterback, is around $40 million. So when you're trying to make that determination, if a player is worth that much of your salary cap, quite frankly, he has to be able to carry the offense, right? Like, if you're going to get that much money, you have to be able to carry the offense, because you're not worth it if you cannot carry the offense. Now, we have seen Baker carry the offense before, late last season. It's not impossible. It's not something that he can't do, but we need to see him do it more consistently. And that's kind of what we thought 2021 would be Baker Mayfield carrying the offense when he needs to a lot more consistently, because if he were doing that this year, we would have a great win-loss record, and we would feel no hesitation about giving him that money. But that's the big deal, right? When you evaluate a quarterback based on whether you should re-sign him or not, you have to think about how much you're going to re-sign him for. And that number right now for a quarterback is around $40 million. And you have to ask yourself, is Baker Mayfield exhibiting traits of a quarterback that you would keep for that much money? If not, then the future with him gets a lot more tricky, because the Browns might not be willing to give him that, but somebody else might be willing to give him that, right? Or, there's a bunch of different combinations in between that can lead to not having the dude on your roster in a few years. So these next 5 games, man, they're probably the most important 5 games for Baker Mayfield in his career, right? If he turns this thing around, gets this thing going, and plays some excellent football down the stretch to get the Browns into the playoff race, into the playoffs, he's probably going to be pretty happy with his extension that's going to come up in the offseason. But if he doesn't, then things are going to get a little bit more messy for him in his future. But that's pretty much the state of the Cleveland Browns right now. As bad as it's been, it's not really that bad, quite frankly. Like, it could be much worse, obviously, but it's still December, and you have a pretty clear path to the playoffs. So there has been worse situations that you could be in as a Browns fan than this. So, hey, try to take advantage of it. Try to get the most out of this year. Hopefully Baker surges, but we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think's going to happen for the rest of the season down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.